about the murder of George Floyd. It is about attacking civil society, instilling fear, and disrupting our great cities.
There is no honor in burning down your city. We as a city are so much more than this.
A curfew is now in place here in Los Angeles, as it is in many cities tonight, but it's having no effect here. That store being looted right now. The nearest police are actually only just down at those traffic lights, but they're dealing with other people.
A long night with resources spread thin.
And here now the consequences of authorities being stretched to the limit. Here on Los Angeles' famous Melrose Avenue, this building up in flames. Firefighters doing the best they can. They need a police escort to respond to most fires. And just down the road, other fire crews are busy with another blaze.
Last time they burned Los Angeles down, this time they come out where the white people at and they burn their stuff down.
In America, justice is never achieved at the hands of an angry mob.
The president and leaders in cities across the country say the protests have been hijacked by radical extremists bent on anarchy.
Groups of outside radicals and agitators are exploiting the situation to pursue their own separate and violent agenda.
But the anger is real, and despite the president's pleas,
Healing, not hatred, justice, not chaos.
The thin blue line is tonight holding on by a thread.
These are the implausible scenes we are witnessing on the streets of the American capital. Heavily armed troops spreading out to take up strategic positions across the city. At the iconic memorial to Abraham Lincoln, the very president who emancipated America's slaves, protesters gathered demanding racial equality. But they were confronted by rows of police and soldiers. This is a city that hasn't seen such disturbing images since the 1960s.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
A mile away at the White House, the demonstration was the largest yet. The new security fence holding back the crowd, but only fueling the frustration. And the demands are increasing too. This is not just about police brutality anymore. It is about change. They marched through the city defying the curfew. The crowd notably diverse.
I mean, we're trying to stand up against injustice. There's a problem in this country and it needs to be addressed. It's gone on for far too long.
It's very notable there's a lot of white people out here in solidarity.
There's a lot of white people. There's a people of all colors, creeds. An injustice against one of us is against all of us, so people are just out here standing up for what's right.
Looking out of place in an American city, heavily armed units watched on, not at all comfortable identifying themselves.
Are you with the regular military, or are you paramilitary or police?
Protesters and soldiers are suddenly face to face on American street corners.
We're not afraid. And here we have a bizarre little confrontation. There are military police here, and then activists here saying that they're not afraid, but there's a lack of accountability. Nobody knows who exactly these soldiers or these police officers are.
We're not dumb. The real provocateur is you. You are the terrorists. We are not afraid of you. None of us are afraid of you.
I'm disgusted with you guys. Look at this country. Y'all see all these people rioting? It's repeating. Time is repeating itself. How many times do we have to come out here and do this?
Back at the White House overnight, the anger did not fade.
George Floyd! George Floyd!
Much of it is directed at the president, describing these activists as anarchists and looters, and at his decision to deploy those troops.
You need the whole United States military just to protect you. That means your days are numbered. Your days are numbered, Donald Trump.
The days of Donald Trump and police brutality, their days are numbered. And anytime you see him come out here and sick his troops on those teenagers yesterday and gas them and you see the people return right here without fear, then you know that a dictator's days are numbered in power.
Is this a crossroads for America?
Yes, it is. This is a critical moment. These demonstrations are not dying down. They're not going to die down. We're expecting 1 million right here at the White House for Blackout Saturday. There'll be more than ever this Saturday. They're coming from all over the country.
The protesters are vowing to maintain their struggle for justice, and many see this as their defining moment. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
The country to begin reopening.
It's nerve-wracking, but I'm excited and, looking forward to a little back of normalcy, I guess.
Some 400,000 workers can now return to jobs in construction, manufacturing, and retail with curbside pickup.
It's been pretty bad, yeah. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm smiling underneath this mask, if you can't tell.
One huge question, will New Yorkers feel comfortable enough to return to the city's mass transit? Ridership had dropped nearly 95%. Officials now trying to convince the public the system has never been so clean. Masks are mandatory and available for free.
It's safe to ride the subways and buses, and that's the case we're going to make to our customers.
The toll from COVID-19 in New York City has been staggering, nearly 22,000 dead. But last week, for the first time, a day when no one died from a confirmed case of COVID-19.
Congratulations. We are back. We are back. We are continuing our decline. The rest of the country is still spiking.
26 states in various stages of reopening have seen COVID cases increase during the past week, in part because they're testing more and including probable cases. In Texas, one of the first to reopen, the number of patients in hospitals is now at a record high. And cases also still spiking in some minority neighborhoods in New York City. Reopening still on hold in some of the city's most exclusive shopping areas, boarded up after a wave of vandalism and looting last week. Adding to the anxiety, tens of thousands of peaceful protesters still hold daily marches throughout the city. Sayuri Nagasawa has seen those huge protests pass right by her clothing business, but she's still ready to reopen.
Things will probably never go back to normal, but I do think there's a very bright future ahead of us.
In the country's hardest hit city, the first steps on the road to recovery. Ron Allen, NBC News, New York.
NBC Nightly News Kids Edition is a new broadcast from Lester Holt and the NBC News team to inform and inspire young viewers. You can watch it on NBCNews.com, YouTube, or the NBC News app.
Over 50 million kids go to public school in this country, but the education they receive widely varies, sometimes from town to town, and often for all the wrong reasons. NBC's Cynthia McFadden has the story.
Kennedy Kane is a fighter, and that's lucky because at 16, she's not only a straight-A student at Cass Tech, one of the best public high schools in Detroit, she's running a makeshift school on a single borrowed computer for her 4 siblings.
Kenneth, Keenan, Kenye, and Kendall.
After nearly a month without any assignments, her school launched an online platform. But Kennedy says that hasn't made it easier.
Not only is this new to us, but it's new to the teachers as well. And sometimes the teachers have difficulties when they're trying to program it, and then they assign it as if they know that everyone has availability or the opportunity to have technology in their home when that's not the case. So it's kind of frustrating.
When schools closed, only 10% of Detroit public school students had access to a computer and the internet, which is deeply troubling to Dr. Nikolai Viti. 3 years ago, he became superintendent, inheriting a system long on promise and short on resources.
So, Dr. Viti, what was the state of the Detroit public school system before the coronavirus?
Enrollment was up for the first time in over a decade. Student achievement defined by state and national test scores showed improvement.
Equally important, the teacher vacancy rate, which had dogged the city, had improved by 75%.
God put me on this earth to teach. I absolutely love it.
Detroit native Casey Edgar teaches 11th grade math at King High, and she says most of her nearly 150 students are less and less committed to school.
How come your camera is not on? The first week I was in touch with, I would say 50 to 60%. And now it's about running at about 20%.
What percentage of your students do you think are actually doing the work?
Like right about 10%.
That's not very many.
No, not very many at all.
Like many places around the country, little learning has taken place for Detroit public school students since March.
So instead of adding and subtracting, we're going to be multiplying.
Okay. There's no denying there is a digital divide in America. Just 7 miles from downtown Detroit, the Grosse Pointe South High School had a computer in every kid's hands who needed one almost immediately after the shutdown.
So before COVID-19, I did not have a laptop. I was issued a laptop right after school ended.
Xavier Prater is a dedicated student.
We just log in and then go to our remote learning resources.
Xavier will be a senior next year and dreams of going to UCLA. He is well on his way with lots of support. Little surprise, participation in online classes in Grosse Pointe is 95%, much higher than it is just a zip code away in Detroit, where it's only 50%. A reflection, some say, of deeply rooted systemic racism. The numbers tell at least part of the story. In Detroit, median household income is about $30,000. The population is nearly 80% black. In Grosse Pointe, median income is just over $100,000, with a black population of 2%.
So is the digital divide in Detroit a racial divide as well?
Absolutely. The haves are receiving more than the have-nots. We already know children are coming in at a disadvantage with fewer resources than middle class, upper middle class students, but our public school system should be the great equalizer in giving an equal opportunity for children, but instead it actually exacerbates the divide that already exists.
Detroit is getting a big boost with a $23 million gift from local businesses to give every student a laptop. But that won't happen until summer, long after the school year ends.
We can anticipate most students losing 6 months of where they would have been had we been in school.
6 months behind can be a knockout punch for kids already struggling with an achievement gap. Not because they aren't as smart, not because they aren't willing to work as hard, just because of where they live.
Grosse Pointe is right next to us. And they got resources the second this pandemic started. Their educational system isn't lacking as much as we are. And it's just like, wow, why can't we be like that? Or why can't we step in and give to our students like they are? Because our students are no different from theirs.
And thanks to Cynthia McFadden for that report. Eye-opening, but very much the reality in that community and so many others, too.
Very sad reality. Hopefully something can be done about that.
Hi everyone, if you're in the Midwest, Mississippi Valley, I want you to have a way to get alerts this afternoon into your evening as we have severe weather, a very strong cold front. It's going to roll through that area from Chicago to Nashville. The primary threats today are going to be damaging wind gusts, also 1-inch hail in that area, and torrential rain. Also going to be watching that throughout your afternoon. We'll be right back.
President Trump is once again taking aim at the NFL after the league reversed course